Hi guys, Devon here. So going to show off the deck again. Obviously, there's a few changes have been made. This was the deck that Musa ended up bringing to his OTS tournament at his locals. He ended up going 4-2, ended up winning only one die roll, I believe, which is quite impressive. I'll explain some of the changes that were made at the end of the report. So just going to dive straight in, talk about his matches. So round one, he ended up losing to Marincess. He ended up losing 1-2. The Marincess player knew Musa, they're like friends, so he knew to play around cards like Gamma, knew like what Zefra Path did. Obviously knew that Zefra Path doesn't lock him out the extra deck, so he actually read the card. I believe game one, the Marincess player just played around Gamma, had Ash Ogre, and then game two, Musa ended up winning with Vanities, and then game three, the Marincess player had Ash, Droll, and Goza match. So that was it. That's how he lost round one. But I believe the Marincess player had a good record, which helped him with tiebreakers. Round two, he ended up winning versus. So Musa ended up winning versus Despia. He ended up. That's the only matchup where he ended up winning the die roll. Game one, he set up Mystic Mine and War. So as soon as the branded player commit to the board, he just warred, removed his own monster, mine locked him. If the branded player hadn't committed to the board, then Musa would just wait till he draws an out to his mine and wait till he can OTK with Boral Sword, which is what he did. Game two, he couldn't break Double Masquerade, so it went into game three, where Musa made a bit of an illegal play. So Musa went for OTK with Boral Sword, which was technically illegal because he linked off Driver. Apparently, he had another monster to link into. He was just a bit stressed because they were going into time. He wanted to make sure he could go battle phase quickly, so that time wasn't called and he could finish off battle phase. So he just linked off the Driver, which is obviously illegal, but it wouldn't have ended up making a difference. Round three versus Raidraptor. Raidraptor won die roll, so they traded games, game one and two, and then game three, Musa ended up opening Gamma and Crow, which was enough to shut him off, so ended up winning that one. Round four versus Sword Soul, so the Sword Soul player goes first, ends on like Longyong Chi and some hand traps, but no blackout. So if Sword Soul end on blackout, it's usually really hard to win, but if they don't end on blackout, you can often push through just engine, which is what Musa ended up doing. He had enough scales to play through, opened war and was able to set up path on the crackback to stop the follow-up of the Sorcerer player and just win the grind. And then game two, he ended up winning 2-0 with the Ball Sword OTK, I believe. This was so it ended up happening again where he linked off Driver. So what ended up happening is I believe he had OTK anyway, or he just would have ended up winning, and the opponent scooped, but the judge ended up catching it, but a bit too late. So what ended up happening is Musa received a game loss on the following round and a infraction. So game five, it was instant game loss for Musa, and then they went into game two with no siding. So what happened is game five he ended up losing 2-0 to Soul Soul because of the game loss, and game one he got Veiled on New, ended on Path because he opened it, and the Sorcerer player unfortunately opened his blackout, so he outed the path, and at that point it was just game because once you lose path versus Sorcerer, it's kind of hard to win. So round six, he ended up winning versus Dragon Link. So Dragon Link took game one, and then Musa took game two by gammering the draw, exchanging, stealing the Veiler, and then setting up the path. And then game three, Musa opened up the correct hand of Scales, Gamma, Sphere Mode. So just let the Dragonlink player play. You don't have to Gamma because you just Sphere Mode their entire board, and then you hold Gamma for something like an Ash, which ended up happening. So at that point, the Dragonlink player couldn't recover, so he just ended up winning. So yep, ended 4-2. Unfortunately, because of the illegal play, could have gone 5-1, but that's just how that rolls. So going to talk about the deck list real quick. Pretty similar to what we uploaded before. Some minor changes. 2 Dogwood for time. Exchange was cut down to 2 from 3, I believe, to fit a third Ibli. Because if you set Ibli on their board, it's kind of an insane card. You just turn it into Almirage. A lot of decks can't link at the moment, and even if they can, if you set up Ibli plus War, you can just like War their normal summon and keep them on Ibli. Versus decks like Despia, it's really nutty. Versus decks like Sorcerer's insane. Another thing is because you put it on their board, it plays around stuff like Imperm, Lightning Storm evenly. So post siding, it's really strong as not just a floodgate, but also stopping them from outing your board with blowout cards. He's playing the one Crow. He said this overperformed and that he might find room for more of it. the triple epsilon because we needed some more back row hate and we needed cards that outright stuff like anti-spell and D-barrier. So extra deck's pretty much the same apart from the one Almirage to make sure the Ibli can be used. Just normal summon Ibli linking to Almirage. So yep. So ended up 4-2. Unfortunately, could have gone like 5-1, but yep. So that's the list. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.